Rights Legislation Amendments Bill. Senator Hanson.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr President. As I have said, with the 18C being introduced, it is not in keeping what I believe what the majority of the people want. In listening to Talkback Radio and listening to other people that come up to me in the streets and in the office, people want what is right. They want to be able to have an opinion. They want to be able to voice their concern. As I said before, when you use the word offend, and I've said repeatedly, you can go up and not everyone likes everyone else's and other cultures, the way they dress, the way that their music, the way they dance, whatever. So to make a comment like that, that other person may be offended by it. Is that enough grounds to take them before the racial discrimination? I don't believe so. Let's put it in the true context of what it is. When just last week, or 2 weeks ago, when we were down here, I had Bill Leake's widow and his son come to visit me. And they came to visit me in support of my stance against the 18C. They saw their father go through the stress, or Johan did see the stress that his father went through. His widow was so distraught of having lost her husband, and so she should be. They saw the stress that he was put under with the challenges upon him, and it did have an impact on his health. They have come to see me because they knew my stance against the 18C, and they have encouraged me and others to actually stand up for this. They said that, Johan said his father put the cartoon out there. Basically, it was sending a message of what was happening in our society. It was not meant to be derogatory towards the Aboriginals, not in the slightest. He was basically saying, this is what is happening in our societies, this is what's happening in some communities. And that was his way of expressing it.
Watch the full political exchange and decide for yourself where you stand. Do you agree or disagree with what was said in this debate? Drop your thoughts in the comments below and let's keep the discussion going respectfully.
Isn't it funny that they actually had to go out and try and find some people to actually complain about this cartoon? They actually went out of their way to find some people to complain about it. Is this what it's about? That you actually have to go and find people? What I'm seeing now these days in Australia, through you, Mr. Acting President, is that those of the left, those with the socialist views and are encouraging those people to purposely go out and complain. And I'm hearing from a lot of different groups and organisations and different people from cultural backgrounds. They're not offended by this. If they are, let them stand up on their own 2 feet. Let them go and make them complaints. Don't find some other people to go and make complaints for them and continually stir the pot. If I say anything that is derogatory or is not in keeping with what the average person in Australia believes, they will judge me. They will judge me at the polling booth. And that's why they have, and that's why I've taken my place here in this chamber with 3 other senators. So what I'd say is freedom of speech is so very important. Criticism is not racism. Criticism is not racism. This is all about having a debate about these issues and having a say and try and find the right answers. And that's all Australians ask. Australians are not racist. Australians are very proud of their culture, their country and their heritage. And most Australians have, and include myself, welcome others that have come here to this country for that freedom, for the life that we have and our way of life. It is so precious to each and every one of us. Surely we can all work together and in harmony and stop this rubbish that's going on in our country, pushed by the lefts left side of politics.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Senator Hanson.
This is not just a speech about law anymore. This is a direct political clash over one of the most controversial free speech battles in Australia. Because what Senator Pauline Hanson is doing here is drawing a very hard line between what she calls free expression and what she calls weaponized offense culture. She starts by rejecting the core idea behind Section 18C, the law that allows people to take legal action over language considered offensive or racially discriminatory. And her argument is simple but explosive. She says offense alone should never be enough to become a criminal or legal threshold. In her framing, societies don't collapse because people disagree. They collapse when disagreement itself becomes punishable. Then she shifts from policy to people. She claims the majority of Australians support her position, not through polling data or formal studies, but through what she says she hears directly in public conversations, talkback radio, and street interactions. This is where the argument becomes emotional, not just legal. Because now it's not about legislation anymore. It's about identity, about who gets to define what the public actually believes. And then she escalates further. She brings in a personal reference, the widow and son of Bill Leak, linking the emotional consequences of legal and cultural backlash against controversial expression. That moment is used to reinforce her central claim that laws like 18C don't just regulate speech, they create pressure, stress, and consequences that extend far beyond politics. From there, the argument shifts sharply into accusation. She suggests that political opponents, particularly on the left, are not just defending protections against racism, but actively encouraging people to seek out complaints, escalate grievances, and expand the scope of offense-based legal action. This is where the tone turns fully confrontational, because she is no longer debating a law. She is questioning the entire system around it. Then comes the core repetition, the line she anchors everything on. Criticism is not racism. And she repeats it not as a statement, but as a boundary. A boundary between what she believes should be protected political speech and what she believes is being redefined as unlawful harm. Finally, she expands the argument into a broader national identity claim. Australia, in her framing, is not a society defined by fragility or restriction, but by openness, resilience, and tolerance of disagreement. And she ends by positioning free speech not as a political preference, but as a foundation of national stability itself. So what you're actually seeing here is not just a parliamentary speech. It's a collision between two competing ideas of modern democracy. One side arguing that speech must be restricted to prevent harm, and the other arguing that once offense becomes law, debate itself becomes a risk. And that is exactly why this debate doesn't stay in Parliament. It spreads into the entire political culture around it.